Hello and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which for the purposes of this podcast consists of 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or just storytelling in some form or fashion. So this is the first episode of 2025, and I've got my 6 things all ready to go. So first I'm going to say I originally planned to take off like a couple of weeks for the holidays. But then in addition to that, it turned out I got sick. I lost my voice multiple times. We were out of town another time. It was crazy for a few weeks there. But we're done with our travels. My voice is back. We're feeling settled into the new year finally. So here I am, ready to share with y'all again. But I've definitely missed doing it and missed getting to chat with you guys. So I'll say number 1, I did end up pushing through and finishing Time Stream at the end of the year. I think it was literally New Year's Eve. I can't even remember now, but I believe it was. I got up extra early to just finish up those last it might have been a couple thousand words, if even. It was not that much that needed to be just put on to the end, finish that up. So it's done, that first draft. I did send it off to a couple of beta readers, and I started reading it to my husband last night, and he had some good thoughts for me. But also, as I'm reading it to him, I'm noticing there's just 100,000 really bad typos, like putting the wrong person's name in there, just bad stuff. So I apologize to the beta readers about that. Just, you can figure it out by context, but I should have done a better sweep of it before sending it off, I'm sure, but I was just so ready to move on. So anyway, but yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out overall. Definitely need some polishing. Some of the things my husband pointed out are definitely things I already know are my weakness, over explaining. There's usually a lot of telling instead of showing in the first draft, and just superfluous things that just need to be trimmed up in draft 2. So I'm going to be working on that sometime soon. Start talking with my cover artist, things like that. I do already know a few specific things I need to change, but they're pretty small. I don't know of any big changes that need to be made, but as I go over it and get feedback, we'll see how it goes. But I'm really excited to get this one to y'all. Number 2, I have also gotten back into working on my YouTube channel. I'm working on getting the chapters of the Radialloy audiobook on there, and I just have a few more to go. It's taking longer than I expected because I realized, so normally when I do an audiobook, I'll obviously record it and then I'll edit it and then I'll send those chapters off to the author to check over them. And because I did all the editing myself and so I'd already listened to it, at first I was thinking, I don't need to go over it again. But then I remembered there's been a few times where the editing software did something weird when it was exporting the file and left a big silent space, or just did something it was weird. So I'm oh man, I've got to check for that. So I'm having to listen through all of it as I work on getting them uploaded to YouTube. So taking a bit of time, but it's turned out so well. It's definitely the best quality audiobook I've ever done. So that also makes me excited for future audiobooks. But pretty soon I'll have all the chapters done, and then I'm going to put the whole thing just beginning to end. I think it's 5 or 6 hours of the audiobook in one video on YouTube, which supposedly is how it does much better on YouTube, having it all in one chunk rather than doing it breaking it into chapters. So I'm excited for that, and then to hopefully start getting going on the In His Image audiobook as well, which I've recorded a few chapters, but I think I did some weird stuff with my recording. I may have to redo some of it, but we'll see. Either way, I'm hoping to get an opportunity to work on that soon as well. Number 3, obviously New Year, a good time for goal setting, resolutions and all that. And I don't have a ton of resolutions in general this year, but most of my bigger things are related to writing, publishing, and all that. So my 3 excuse me, big New Year's goals are that I want to publish 2 Firmament books this year, and I want to get my YouTube channel monetized. And the 2 books, because one of them, is already written, that should be pretty simple. I feel like the monetization is definitely a big goal, but it's kind of, other than writing and publishing on Firmament, that's pretty much my primary focus right now, is getting videos up, getting subscribers, getting views and all that. So I think I mentioned before, I need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours in the past 365 days to make that happen. So if you haven't subscribed yet, would love it if you would do that. In addition to audiobooks and this podcast, I've also got some other video projects going on. I've got a video version of my How to Do It All series, and I'm about to start also a series of book reviews for books that I read last year, just like little short, sweet reviews. I've done it on my blog and on Vella in the past, but I thought this might be some good video content. So fun things going on over there. So if you haven't subscribed, J. Grace Pennington on YouTube, I would absolutely love that. So number 4, I think I mentioned last time, I was just starting to teach my 5-year-old reading in school, and we did take quite a few weeks off with holidays and sickness and travel and everything. But we've gotten started again this week, and already my 5-year-old, who tends to be pretty dramatic, is complaining that it's hard, even though she's doing perfectly well, as she already knows everything we've been doing so far. And she gets super excited when she does like sound out a small word. So like in the process of doing it, she doesn't mind, but when we're about to start, she's just like, oh no, I don't want to do it. And she said yesterday, I don't want to learn how to read. And I start trying to tell her, like, reading is so exciting. Like, you could read any book you ever want. And then the really sweet thing is that my 6-year-old, who has been reading for months and can just read anything she puts her mind to, kind of leaned across the table and she was like, April, reading is so much fun. I love reading. You can read anything. You can read whatever book. It's so fun. You're going to love it so much. Like, it was so cute to get to see her, like, sharing that excitement and experience and wisdom, and just to hear it, I think, from her made a much bigger difference than hearing it from me. And so she stopped complaining and we got to work, and she was all excited to sound out a couple of short words. So I just thought that was sweet. And just seeing my oldest blossom in her reading has been so amazing. And just the fact that she and I did that together is such an accomplishment. And I'm excited to go through that with the other kids as well. Number 5 on my currently reading, I don't remember, excuse me, if I mentioned this last year. I don't remember how this even exactly came about, but I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I have said for years and years that Charles Dickens is my favorite author, and yet I've only read about half his works. And this is the kind of thing where I'm always like, oh, I'll get to those at some point. And like, I can't keep saying that about things. Like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it. So I decided I'm going to read through all of Dickens' books, and I'm just going to do them in publication order. And I had no plan or expectation for how long that would take. I just thought, because I have other things to read too, but I'm going to start interspersing some of those. So I ended up only getting 2 of them read last year, and those were both rereads. Like, these are both ones I'd already read, The Pickwick Papers and Oliver Twist. But Oliver Twist I hadn't read since I was a kid. I think I was probably like 12. And so it was definitely a richer experience. And so I enjoyed doing those last year. And then this year, turns out it was my very first read of the year, I'm reading Nicholas Nickleby. And that's one I have not read in the past and really didn't know anything about. So I was really excited to get to that one. And it's taking a long time, of course. But I don't know, maybe like 2/3 of the way through now. And really enjoying it. Like, Dickens' writing is just superb. And his characterization, like, you just love or hate the characters so much. And they're so vivid. And just the way he says things is so funny and clever. And just his turn of phrase and the way he describes things is different and just so well done. It's just, even though it can get, a little heavy on the description and stuff like that, kind of dated in the style in that way, it's still just such a rich experience to read any of his books. So I'm excited to keep moving through them. Really curious where Nickleby is going, because, like I said, like 2/3 or so of the way in, I still feel like I'm kind of waiting for something, like a lot of things are happening, but I feel like I'm waiting for some things to like get connected. There's kind of a bunch of different things that have happened. And a lot of times in Dickens stories, those will eventually sort of come together. And so I am just curious to see how that's going to go, how this is going to end. So yeah, I guess I'll update y'all. So number 6, I know I've talked before about how, in different seasons, routines and patterns and schedule and stuff like that will change with like changing needs and just changing, I don't know, just things change and you have to like be flexible and be willing to rethink things. And so I know for a while I was getting up at 5 so I could have an extra hour in the morning to do my writing and then just be done with it for the day. And that was working really well for a while, but then I kind of, like probably some point in December, I think, I don't know, some point in the last couple months, I started just kind of getting to this place where I was really struggling to do that. And I don't know if it's because it's the cold weather, that makes it harder to get out of bed and it just makes me feel more draggy and unmotivated in general, or just all of the kids are kind of going through phases where they require a lot of energy from me, and so that might be making me more tired. But either way, I just started realizing it just wasn't really working, and I'm trying to learn that like me and my nature would try when I've got like a schedule or a plan and it just isn't working, I would just push through and be like, nope, this is what we're doing, and I'm trying to learn to assess and discern that difference between just giving up because something it's hard, or just being like, no, this really isn't working. We need to rethink what we can do here, And so this was a situation where I just realized I wasn't getting writing done. I was really just struggling in the mornings. And so I decided I'm going to go back to just getting up at 6 so I can do my Bible and workout and stuff. And I'm going to figure out a new space to slot my writing into. And it's been really a struggle. And again, I do think there's probably some seasonal depression at work. I do tend to struggle more in the fall and the winter, although I do tend to have waves of depression pretty much any time. But it's definitely something different about the winter. I'm much more draggy and unmotivated. But it's good to know that and to be like, okay, here's what's going on. What can we do? Because like I've talked about in my How to Do It All series, I don't want to go like, well, I just can't do it. Like I don't feel motivated and I'm tired and there's no time and I have all these kids and so I can't do it. I want to either say like this, I have the option to say this is a season where I'm struggling and the kids need a lot from me and I'm going to put my writing on the back burner for a time. I could do that. And that's totally valid. But, when I stop and assess, I go, I don't want to do that. I've built up some momentum. This is something that I really feel is a calling and is important to me. So I need to find the way that I can fit this into my day, into my life in a consistent way, even if it's maybe a little less, or maybe I do have to give up something else, that I'm doing or whatever. And so I kind of, for a while, and like I said, we were sick and there was holidays and travel and stuff, so it wasn't really a time I was going to get much done anyway. But this past week or so, I'm starting to try to figure it out a little more. And I think I'm going back to just having to like bite the bullet and give up some of my nap time in the afternoon. I don't normally take a nap, but that's when the kids either sleep or have some quiet time. And I'll use it to read, crochet, get some chores done, stuff like that. So if I'm starting like this week, I've been kind of just taking an hour out of that to mainly right now work on YouTube and audiobook stuff, but I'll be writing in there at some point as well. And it's been working. Like sometimes another thing I find is like, especially in the winter because it's cold and I like to be on the couch under blankets. And if I have to get up out from under the blankets and go get my computer or go sit at my desk, I'm just going to procrastinate. So I just take my laptop over to the couch before I even sit down so that once it's kind of like the writing time, I don't have any excuse. I can just be like, here's my computer, I'm going to start working now. And so that's been really helpful too. Just even those small things, like just knowing yourself, knowing your struggles, knowing how you can like set yourself up for success in those like very small things. Like just me knowing like I'm tired, I'm cold, I don't want to get up. So don't get myself to get up. I remember one of my excuse me, sort of creative inspirations is the movie director Robert Rodriguez, and just the way he does things differently and, more efficiently, and, lives his, artistic vision just the way he wants. And so I remember him talking about that at one point, because he writes most of his own stuff, maybe all at this point, I don't know. But he said he was trying to find, the time, because, he has to take his kids to school or whatever. He wasn't finding time in the day to write. So he's like, I decided I have to write first thing in the morning, but I'm a night owl and I hate getting out of bed in the morning. So he just started making sure his computer is next to the bed, so that when he wakes up, just pick up the computer and start writing. So just whatever you need to do to, again, set yourself up for success instead of failure. Know yourself, know what's going to work and what's really just not working. I've found that to be really beneficial in actually doing things instead of just wanting and wishing to do things. So still figuring that one out, but it's working pretty well to just do it a little bit in the afternoon after I've done, I've had a little rest, I've done some reading, had a snack, maybe listened to a little bit of a podcast and done some crocheting just to wind down from the busyness of the morning and the kids and everything, and then take the last hour before they start getting up to do some work. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, because that is one of the main things I feel like is my message, is figuring out how to fit your creativity, dreams, and artistry into a busy life, and just, again, thinking what's important to you and how can you make it happen, and how can you assess when something needs to change and shift. And so it's something I'm still figuring out as I go along. So hopefully sharing some of that can be helpful to y'all as well. So thank you all so much for listening and for getting back with me in this new year after such a long break. Thank you for being patient with me. I have, like I shared, a lot of big things planned for this year, so I will keep updating you all as how things are going, sharing about all my reading that I'm hopefully going to do this year, and just how I make all of these story-related things fit into my very busy life. So let me know any New Year's goals that you have, whether it's related to reading or writing or not. I'd love to hear about it. And if you've read Nicholas Nickleby, don't spoil the ending, but tell me how you liked it, and what is your favorite Dickens novel if you like Dickens. And also would love to talk about just ways to fit things that you really desire to do and feel called to do into an otherwise very busy life and busy schedule. Would love to talk about that as always. So again, thank you all so much for listening. Hope that everyone has a great day and a great weekend ahead and a great 2025, and stay improbable. Bye.